Marcus Reed thought surviving his wife's death was the hardest thing he'd ever face, until a freezing winter night forced him to make a choice that would shatter everything he thought he knew about love, loss, and letting go. When he found a half-frozen child abandoned in a blizzard, he had no idea that saving her life would mean risking everything he had left: his children, his stability, and the carefully guarded walls around his broken heart. What started as one act of mercy became a journey that would transform his family forever, proving that sometimes the most broken people make the safest places to land. But when the system came knocking and threatened to take away more than just the child he'd saved, Marcus had to decide: would he play it safe, or would he risk it all to become the father that forgotten children desperately needed? If you're watching this, subscribe and tell me where you're watching from, because this story about courage, second chances, and unexpected family will stay with you long after it ends. The snow had been falling for 3 hours straight when Marcus Reed clocked out of the industrial park security booth. Fat flakes swirled under the yellow parking lot lights, already covering the ground in a thick white blanket that muffled every sound. He pulled his coat collar up and checked his phone. 11:47 p.m. The night bus should have been waiting at the corner stop, but the screen showed a red banner: service suspended, snow emergency. Marcus stared at those words for a long moment. The apartment was 4 miles away. He had $12 in his wallet until Friday. A taxi would cost at least $20, maybe $30 in this weather. He started walking. The wind cut through his coat like it was made of paper. Marcus kept his head down, watching his boots crunch through snow that was already ankle-deep. His shift supervisor had offered him a ride, but the man lived in the opposite direction. Marcus didn't want to be a burden. He never wanted to be a burden. The streets were empty. Even the 24-hour gas station on Miller Avenue had its lights off. Marcus passed dark storefronts and shuttered diners, his breath coming out in white clouds. His fingers went numb inside his gloves. He thought about Jalen and Ava, asleep in their beds, safe and warm. Mrs. Coleman from down the hall had checked on them at 9 like she always did when he worked nights. Good woman. Didn't ask questions. Didn't expect anything back. Marcus's thoughts drifted where they always did on long walks. Back 3 years, to hospital rooms and morphine pumps and a hand that got colder every day until it wasn't warm anymore. Sarah, his wife, his partner, gone at 32 from something that started as tiredness and ended as a word doctors said with their eyes on the floor. Lymphoma. He still had trouble saying it out loud. The kids asked about her less now. That hurt worse than when they cried. He was halfway home, crossing the bridge over the rail yard, when he heard it. A sound so faint he almost missed it under the wind. A small, broken noise that might have been an animal, or might have been something else. Marcus stopped walking. Listened. There it was again. Crying. Definitely crying. He turned toward the sound. 20 feet ahead, barely visible through the falling snow, stood an old bus shelter. The plexiglass on one side was cracked. Inside, hunched on the metal bench, was a shape too small to be an adult. Marcus's heart kicked hard against his ribs. He looked left, then right. The street was completely deserted. No cars, no people, just wind and snow and that tiny sound of sobbing. He approached slowly, his boots crunching. "Hello? You okay in there?" The crying stopped. The shape didn't move. Marcus got closer. Through the cracked plexiglass, he could see her now. A little girl. Maybe 7 or 8, wearing a thin jacket that belonged on a spring day, not in a blizzard. No hat, no gloves. Her hair was pressed flat against her head, wet from melted snow. Her lips looked blue. "Hey," Marcus said, keeping his voice gentle. He crouched down outside the shelter. "Sweetie, where are your parents?" The girl lifted her head. Her eyes were wide and glassy. She tried to speak, but her teeth chattered too hard. Marcus felt ice in his stomach that had nothing to do with the cold. This child was freezing. Actually, freezing. He'd done first aid training for his security job. He knew hypothermia when he saw it. "Okay, listen to me," he said, moving into the shelter. "I need to get you warm. Do you understand?" She nodded, barely. Marcus knelt in front of her. "What's your name?" "And Naya." Her voice was so quiet he almost didn't hear it. "Naya, okay, I'm Marcus. I'm going to help you, but I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" Another small nod. Every instinct in Marcus's body screamed different directions. Call the police. Find a hospital. Get her to safety. But his phone showed 0 bars out here. The hospital was 2 miles in the wrong direction, and this girl didn't have 2 miles left in her. He could see it in how her hands shook, how her eyes couldn't quite focus. He made a decision he'd questioned for weeks. Marcus took off his coat. The cold hit him immediately, but he wrapped the heavy fabric around Nia's small shoulders, lifting her gently. She weighed almost nothing. "We're going to my place. It's close. You'll be warm there. I promise." She didn't protest, didn't speak, just pressed her face against his chest as he stood, adjusting his grip so he held her securely. Her skin felt like touching ice through wet clothes. The last mile home was the longest walk of Marcus's life. The snow came down harder, the wind pushed against him like a physical force, and every step sent sharp pain through his legs. His arms burned from holding Nia, but he didn't dare set her down. She'd stopped shivering. He knew that was bad. Very bad. "Stay with me, Nia," he said, his words half lost in the wind. "We're almost there. You're going to be okay." She made a small sound against his shirt. Marcus talked to keep her conscious, keep himself moving. "I got 2 kids. Jalen, he's 10. Ava's 6. They're going to want to meet you. Ava especially. She loves making new friends. Talks more than anybody I ever met." His apartment building appeared through the snow like a miracle. 4 stories of old brick, half the windows lit, half dark. Marcus pushed through the main door and nearly fell into the lobby's warmth. The heat felt like being hit. His face stung as blood rushed back into frozen skin. He didn't stop at the elevator. Too slow. He took the stairs to the 3rd floor. Nia clutched against him, his coat wrapped around her like a cocoon. His door was at the end of the hall. Number 3D. He fumbled with his keys, hands shaking so badly he dropped them twice. The lock finally clicked. He pushed inside. The apartment was small. Living room, kitchen, 2 tiny bedrooms, 1 bathroom. But it was clean and it was warm. The thermostat stayed at 68 because that's what the budget allowed. Tonight, 68 felt like summer. "Jalen, Ava!" Marcus called out. 2 doors opened almost instantly. Jalen appeared first, his hair pressed flat on one side from his pillow. Then Ava, clutching the stuffed elephant she'd had since she was 2. Both kids froze when they saw their father holding a stranger. "Dad?" Jalen's voice was careful, protective. "Who's that?" "Her name is Nia. I found her in the snow. She's very cold." Marcus moved quickly to the couch, laying Nia down as gently as he could. "Ava, baby, I need you to get every blanket from your room. Jalen, fill a pot with water and put it on the stove. Not too hot, medium heat." The kids moved. Ava disappeared into her room. Jalen headed for the kitchen, glancing back over his shoulder every few steps. Marcus knelt beside the couch. Nia's eyes were closed now. "Nia, stay awake. Look at me." Her eyes fluttered open. "That's good. You're doing great." Marcus peeled off her wet jacket. The shirt underneath was soaked through. He grabbed the throw blanket from the back of the couch and wrapped it around her, rubbing her arms gently to encourage circulation. "You're safe now. I promise you're safe." Ava came running back with an armful of blankets, her comforter, 2 throw blankets, even the ratty Afghan Mrs. Coleman had made. Marcus piled them on top of Nia until only her face showed. "Is she dying?" Ava whispered. "No, baby. She's just cold. We're warming her up. Marcus tried to sound confident. He didn't feel confident. Can you sit with her? Talk to her? Tell her about your elephant? Ava nodded seriously and climbed onto the couch near Nia's head. This is Mr. Trunks, she began in her softest voice. I got him when I was really little. He used to be Mom's, but then she gave him to me before she... Marcus stood quickly. He couldn't hear the rest of that sentence right now. Jalen was in the kitchen, watching the pot with his arms crossed. Water's heating up, the boy said without looking at his father. Thank you. Marcus opened the cabinet and found the chicken broth he'd been saving. He dumped it in the pot with the water. We'll make her some soup. Something warm for her insides. Who is she? Jalen asked. Really? I told you. I found her at a bus shelter. She was alone. Where are her parents? I don't know. You just brought her here? Marcus turned to face his son. Jalen had Sarah's eyes, dark brown, sharp, seeing everything. What else was I supposed to do? Call the cops. Take her to a hospital. Literally anything except bring a stranger into our house. She would have died, Jalen. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Marcus kept his voice level. And even if I didn't, even if there was a chance she might have been okay, I couldn't take that risk. Could you? Jalen looked away first. The water's boiling. They made soup in silence. Simple stuff. Broth, water, crackers crumbled in. Marcus poured it into their biggest mug and carried it to the living room. Ava was still talking, showing Nia the torn ear on Mr. Trunks where the stitching had come loose. Nia, Marcus said gently, I need you to drink this. Just a little bit. She opened her eyes fully for the first time. They were gray, light gray like a cloudy morning. She looked at Marcus, then at the mug, then at Ava chattering beside her. It's good, Ava promised. Dad makes the best soup. That was a lie. Marcus barely knew how to cook, but Nia accepted the mug with shaking hands. Marcus helped her lift it. She took one sip, then another, then a longer drink that ended in a cough. Easy, Marcus said. Slow. She drank half the mug before her hands got too tired. Marcus set it aside and checked her forehead. Still cold, but not ice cold. That was something. Thank you, Nia whispered. Her voice was scratchy but clearer. Thank you for helping me. Marcus felt something crack in his chest. You don't have to thank me, sweetheart. Nobody should be alone in the cold like that. I ran away. The words hung in the warm air. Jalen stepped closer. Ava stopped talking. Even Mr. Trunks seemed to listen. From where? Marcus asked carefully. The house. The foster house. They were mean. Not hitting mean, just mean. Like I wasn't real. Nia's voice was so small. I thought I could walk to my old school, find my teacher. She was nice. But then it started snowing and I got lost. Marcus closed his eyes briefly. Foster care. That explained why no parents were searching, why no one was out looking. The system was probably overwhelmed. In this weather, it might be morning before anyone realized she was gone. Okay, he said. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. You're going to rest here tonight. Get warm. In the morning, we'll figure everything out, but tonight, you're safe. Understand? Nia nodded. Her eyes were already drifting closed. Ava, you good to sleep in Jalen's room tonight? Yep. Ava bounced off the couch. Jalen snores, but it's okay. I don't snore, Jalen muttered. You do, Ava and Marcus said at the same time. Despite everything, Nia's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Marcus got the kids back to bed, tucked Ava into Jalen's extra sleeping bag on the floor, listened to Jalen's whispered questions about what would happen next. He didn't have answers. He just had right now. Back in the living room, Nia was asleep under the mountain of blankets. Her breathing was even. Her color was better. Marcus sank into the armchair across from the couch and put his head in his hands. What had he done? Brought a runaway foster kid into his home without telling anyone. If someone found out, social services, the police, anyone, they could question his judgment, his fitness as a parent. He could lose Jalen and Ava. But when he looked at Naya sleeping there, small and vulnerable, and finally warm, he couldn't make himself regret it. The knock on the door came at 1:30 a.m., sharp, official. Marcus's heart stopped. He went to the door and checked the peephole. A woman stood in the hallway, 30-something, wearing a professional coat and holding a clipboard. Even through the fisheye lens, Marcus could see the county ID badge hanging from her neck. He opened the door slowly. "Marcus Reed?" the woman asked. "Yes, I'm Lena Whitmore, County Child Services. I received a flag that a minor matching a missing person report might be at this address." Her eyes moved past him into the apartment. "May I come in?" Marcus had no choice. He stepped aside. Lena entered, her gaze sweeping the small space with practiced efficiency. She saw the couch, the blankets, the sleeping girl. Her expression didn't change. "That's Nia Brooks. She absconded from emergency placement 6 hours ago." "I found her at a bus shelter," Marcus said quickly. "She was freezing. The phone lines were down and I couldn't—" "Mr. Reed." Lena held up one hand. "I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm assessing the situation." She moved closer to the couch, knelt down, checked Nia's pulse and breathing. After a long moment, she stood. "You likely saved her life. Hypothermia can kill in under an hour in these conditions." Marcus felt dizzy with relief. "So what happens now?" "Now I need to determine if she can be safely transported." Lena glanced at the windows where snow was still falling heavily. "But given the weather emergency and her condition, I think it's best if she remains here until morning. With your permission." "Of course, yes." Lena looked at him directly for the first time. Her eyes were dark brown, sharp, missing nothing. "This is temporary, Mr. Reed. I'll return at first light to arrange proper placement. Don't misunderstand the situation." "I understand." "Good." She handed him a business card. "If her condition changes or if you have concerns, call my cell. It's on the back." Marcus took the card. His hands were still shaking. "Thank you." Lena headed for the door, then paused. "You have children here?" "2. They're asleep." "And you work nights?" "Security. Mrs. Coleman from 3F checks on them." Lena nodded slowly. She was filing all this away, Marcus realized, building a picture of his life, his choices, his ability to care for his own kids. The thought made him want to defend himself, explain that he was doing his best, that it was enough even when it didn't feel like enough. But Lena just said, "Get some rest, Mr. Reed. Tomorrow will be complicated." She left. The lock clicked. Marcus stood in the middle of his living room, listening to the building settle, to Nia breathe, to the snow tap against the windows. Complicated didn't even begin to cover it. Marcus woke up on the armchair at 6:15 a.m. with his neck screaming and his back bent at an angle that promised pain for days. Gray light filtered through the windows. The snow had stopped, but what it left behind was 3 feet of white silence blanketing everything. Cars on the street below were just lumps. The whole city looked frozen in place. Nia was still asleep on the couch, her breathing soft and steady. Her face had color now, real color, not the bluish tint from last night. Marcus stood carefully, his joints popping, and walked to the window. The street was empty. Not a single car moving. No plows, no people. He checked his phone. 7 missed calls from work. A text from his supervisor. City shut down. Stay home. Roads closed indefinitely. Marcus let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. At least he wouldn't lose hours. The security company paid for snow days. Small miracle. The apartment was quiet. Jalen's door was still closed. Ava's too. She must have climbed back into her own bed at some point during the night. Marcus moved to the kitchen and started coffee. The smell filled the small space. Warm and familiar. Normal. He needed normal right now. He was pulling bread from the cabinet when Nia stirred. She sat up slowly, the blankets falling away, looking around the apartment like she didn't quite remember where she was. Her eyes landed on Marcus. "Morning," he said gently. "How you feeling?" "Warm." Her voice was still scratchy, but stronger than last night. "My head hurts a little. That's probably from the cold. I'll get you some water and Tylenol." Marcus filled a glass and found the children's pain reliever. He brought both to the couch. "You remember everything from last night?" Nia nodded, taking the medicine. "The lady came. The social worker. Miss Whitmore, yeah, she said she'd be back this morning." Marcus sat on the arm of the chair. "Nia, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. The house you ran from, did anyone hurt you? Hit you? Touch you wrong?" "No." Nia shook her head quickly. "Nothing like that. They had 6 kids, and I was the new one. They forgot my name sometimes, called me girl or, hey you. The other kids got mad if I touched their stuff. The mom was tired all the time. She wasn't mean, exactly. Just not there." She looked down at her hands. "I know it's bad to run away. I know it makes things harder, but I couldn't stay there anymore. I felt invisible." Marcus understood that feeling more than he wanted to admit. "You're not invisible, Nia. You're real and you matter. You hear me?" She nodded, but her eyes filled with water. "Hey, no." Marcus moved to sit beside her on the couch. "You're safe here. For now, for today, you're safe. That's enough." Nia wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "Your kids, do they hate that I'm here?" "Hate? No. Confused, maybe? But Ava's already half in love with you, and Jalen just needs time to trust new things. That's his way." Marcus stood. "You like eggs?" "I guess. I'm not picky." "Good, because eggs are about 90% of what I know how to cook." That got a small smile. Progress. Marcus made scrambled eggs with cheese, toast with butter, and orange juice from concentrate. He was setting the table when Ava emerged from her room, still in her pajamas covered with cartoon puppies. Her eyes went straight to Nia. "You stayed!" Ava bounced over to the couch. "I thought maybe you'd disappear like in movies when people dream things." "I'm real," Nia said quietly. "I know. Can I sit with you?" Nia nodded. Ava climbed onto the couch and immediately started talking about her dreams, about Mr. Trunks, about how school was canceled and that meant they could watch movies if Dad said yes. Nia listened with the intensity of someone who wasn't used to being talked to. Jalen appeared last, moving slowly, watching everything. He nodded at Nia. "You look better." "Thank you for making the soup," Nia said. "Dad made it. I just heated the water." "Still, thank you." Jalen shrugged, but Marcus saw his son's shoulders relax slightly. Small steps. They ate breakfast together at the cramped kitchen table. 4 people where usually there were 3. Marcus had to pull over a folding chair from the closet. Ava talked enough for everyone, asking Nia questions about her favorite color, blue, her favorite animal, dogs, but she'd never had one, whether she liked school, sometimes when the teacher was nice. Marcus watched Jalen watching Nia. His son had his mother's ability to read people, to notice the small things. Jalen saw how Nia ate carefully, like she expected the food to be taken away, how she asked permission before reaching for more toast, how she held herself small, taking up as little space as possible. The knock came at 8:47 a.m. Marcus answered to find Ms. Whitmore standing in the hallway, snow still clinging to her boots. She looked tired, more tired than last night. "Mr. Reed, may I?" Marcus let her in. Lena's eyes went immediately to the kitchen table, to the 4 plates, to Nia sitting between his children looking almost like she belonged there. "Nia," Lena said, "I'm glad to see you're well." "Yes, ma'am." Lena pulled off her coat and accepted Marcus's offer of coffee. They stood in the kitchen while the kids stayed at the table, pretending not to listen. The roads are still closed, Lena said quietly. Main streets might open by this afternoon, but residential areas could be days. Emergency vehicles only right now. She took a sip of coffee. I've been on the phone with my supervisor and with Nia's case manager. Given the circumstances and the weather emergency, the best option is for Nia to remain here temporarily. Marcus's heart did something complicated. How temporary? 24 to 48 hours, until the road's clear and we can arrange appropriate placement. Lena set down her mug. This is highly irregular, Mr. Reed. We're only proceeding because the alternative is attempting transport in dangerous conditions, and because my assessment last night indicated this is a safe environment. It is, Marcus said. I promise you it is. I'll need to document everything. I'll return this evening to check on her welfare. If anything concerns me, I'll arrange immediate removal regardless of road conditions. Lena's voice was professional, but her eyes were kind. Do you understand? Yes, ma'am. Lena moved back to the living room. She crouched in front of Nia. How are you feeling? Truthfully. Good. Better. Mr. Reed and his kids are being really nice. Has anyone made you uncomfortable? No. If anything changes, you tell me. You have my number. Okay. Lena stood. She looked at Marcus. I'll be back at 6. Have a good day, everyone. After she left, the apartment fell into a strange stillness. Nia sat on the couch. Jalen stood by the window. Ava played with Mr. Trunks on the floor. Marcus cleaned the breakfast dishes and tried to figure out what you did with 3 kids on a snow day. When one of them was a stranger, you were responsible for keeping safe. Can we watch a movie? Ava asked, solving the problem for him. They watched a Pixar film about emotions that made Marcus tear up twice. Nia laughed once, a real laugh that made Ava beam with pride. Jalen didn't laugh, but he didn't leave either. He sat on the far end of the couch, maintaining distance but staying present. Around noon, Mrs. Coleman knocked. She entered with a casserole dish wrapped in towels and a knowing look on her weathered face. Heard you got a house guest, she said, setting the dish on the counter. Figured you could use food you didn't have to cook. Mrs. Coleman, you didn't have to... Hush. She waved him off and moved directly to Nia. Well, hello there, sweetheart. I'm Dorothy Coleman. I live down the hall. I've known these Reed children since they were babies. Hi, Nia said softly. I'm Nia. Pretty name. You settling in okay? Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Coleman studied her with eyes that had raised 5 children and seen 7 decades of human nature. You look like you could use some cocoa. Marcus, you got cocoa? Maybe. Top cabinet? Mrs. Coleman found the ancient tin of cocoa powder and milk in the fridge. While she made hot chocolate on the stove, she talked about the blizzard of '78, about winters that used to be real winters, about the time Marcus's building lost power for 3 days straight. Her voice filled the apartment with stories, with history, with the sense that life went on even when it felt like it wouldn't. She served the cocoa in 4 mismatched mugs. The kids gathered around the kitchen table. Mrs. Coleman sat with them, asking gentle questions about school, about hobbies, about nothing that mattered and everything that did. Nia answered quietly at first, then with more confidence. She liked to read. She was good at math. She wanted to learn piano someday. Marcus leaned against the counter, watching. Mrs. Coleman caught his eye and gave him a small nod. You did right, that nod said. This child needed shelter and you gave it. After the cocoa, Mrs. Coleman stood to leave. At the door, she pulled Marcus aside. That girl's been through something, Marcus. I can see it in how she holds herself. I know. And you're being careful. That's good. But don't pretend this doesn't matter. She touched his arm. To her or to you? Mrs. Coleman left. Her words stayed. The afternoon stretched long and warm. Ava convinced Nia to draw with her at the coffee table. They used old printer paper and a box of crayons that had seen better days. Ava drew princesses and dragons. Nia drew a house with smoke coming from the chimney, windows full of yellow light. a family of stick figures holding hands. Marcus saw the drawing and had to look away. Around 4, Jalen finally spoke directly to Nia. "You want to see something cool?" Nia looked up, surprised. "Okay." Jalen led her to the window in his room. He pointed down at the courtyard behind the building, where neighborhood kids were building snow forts. "After it stops being an emergency, we can go down, build our own fort. It's pretty fun." "I've never built a snow fort," Nia admitted. "Really? Never?" "We moved a lot, and the places I stayed didn't really do stuff like that." Jalen was quiet for a moment, then, "Well, when the road's clear, before you have to go, we'll build one. Deal?" "Deal." Marcus stood in the hallway listening. His son, careful, protective Jalen, was extending kindness, not because he had to, because he wanted to. Dinner was Mrs. Coleman's casserole, some kind of chicken and rice situation that tasted like comfort. They ate together again, the 4 of them, talking less than breakfast, but sitting easier. Nia didn't ask permission before taking seconds. Progress. Lena Whitmore arrived at exactly 6 p.m., stomping snow from her boots. Marcus let her in. She did another assessment, checked Nia's temperature, asked questions, observed the apartment. She saw the drawings on the coffee table, the blankets still piled on the couch, the way Ava sat close to Nia while they watched TV. "Everything appears appropriate," Lena said finally. She pulled Marcus aside while the kids were distracted. "I spoke with the emergency placement coordinator. Roads are still bad. We're looking at another night, possibly 2. "That's fine. We're managing." Lena studied him. "You're very calm about having a foster child dropped in your lap." Marcus shrugged. "I'm not calm. I'm just doing what needs doing. Most people wouldn't. Then most people need to do better." Something shifted in Lena's expression. The professional mask cracked just slightly. "You have children of your own to worry about. A job, bills. This isn't your responsibility." "Maybe not legally," Marcus said, "but she was freezing in a bus shelter. That makes it my responsibility enough." Lena was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I'll be back tomorrow morning. If the road's clear, I'll need to transport Nia to a proper placement." "I understand." After Lena left, Marcus got the kids ready for bed. Ava insisted Nia take Mr. Trunks for the night. "He keeps the bad dreams away," she said seriously. Nia accepted the worn elephant like it was made of gold. Marcus tucked Nia into the couch again, the blankets piled high. She looked up at him with those gray eyes. "Mr. Reed." "You can call me Marcus." "Marcus, why are you being so nice to me?" The question hit harder than it should have. Marcus sat on the edge of the couch. "Because you deserve kindness, Nia. Simple as that. You're a kid who got dealt a hard hand, and when I found you, you needed help. I'm not special for giving it. I'm just human." The people at the house weren't mean, but they weren't nice either. They were just there, like I was furniture. Her voice got small. "Do you think anyone will ever actually want me?" Marcus felt his throat close up. He thought about Sarah, about loss, about love that ends but doesn't stop mattering. "I think want is a complicated word. But I know for certain there are people who will see you, really see you, and recognize what a good heart you have, and those people will be lucky." "You see me?" Nia whispered. "Yeah, I do." She smiled, a real smile. Then she closed her eyes, holding Mr. Trunks close. Marcus retreated to the armchair. He pulled out his phone and saw a text from work. "Stay safe." No rush coming back. City's a mess. He opened his banking app and winced at the numbers. Feeding 4 people instead of 3 was stretching the budget. But they'd make it work. They always did. He must have dozed off because he woke to the sound of crying. Soft, muffled crying coming from the couch. Marcus went to Nia. She was curled up tight, Tears running down her face, Mr. Trunks pressed against her chest. "Hey," he said gently. "Bad dream." Nia shook her head. "I just remembered. Tomorrow the roads might open. I have to leave." "Yeah, I don't want to." Marcus sat down on the floor beside the couch, so they were at eye level. "I know this is hard, but Ms. Whitmore is good at her job. She'll find you a placement with people who'll take care of you." "Like how you do." Marcus didn't have an answer for that. "Can't I just stay here?" Nia asked, her voice breaking. "I know I'm not yours. I know you didn't ask for this. But I could be good. I could help with chores. I wouldn't be any trouble. Please." Every word was a knife. Marcus wanted to say yes. He wanted to tell her she could stay forever, that he'd fight whoever he needed to fight to make it happen. But the reality was harder than that. He was barely keeping his own family afloat. The system had rules. He had no legal standing. And most of all, there were dozens of kids like Nia who needed homes, and people like him who wanted to help but couldn't, because wanting wasn't enough. "Nia," he said carefully, "I care about you. These 2 days, having you here, it's mattered. You've mattered. But I'm not in a position to take on another child full-time. I work nights, I live paycheck to paycheck. I'm doing my best with Jalen and Ava, and some days my best barely covers it. But let me finish. Just because you can't stay doesn't mean this didn't matter. You being here, you being safe and warm and cared for, that matters. And wherever you end up next, you'll take that with you. You'll remember what it feels like to be seen." "It's not fair," Nia cried. "None of it's fair." "No," Marcus agreed. "It's not." He stayed with her until she cried herself out, until her breathing evened and sleep took her back. He stayed there on the floor, his back against the couch, watching snow fall past the window and wondering how you were supposed to keep your heart open when the world kept breaking it. Around 3 a.m., he heard a door open. Jalen padded out in his pajamas, saw his father on the floor, and sat down beside him without a word. They sat in the dark together, father and son, listening to 2 little girls sleep. "She's nice," Jalen finally said. "I didn't want her to be nice." "Why not?" "Because if she's nice, it'll hurt when she leaves." Marcus put his arm around his son. "Yeah, it will. Is that why you don't date? Why you don't let people close? Because it hurts less?" The question was too perceptive, too honest for 3 in the morning. Marcus sighed. "I loved your mom more than I knew I could love anything. When she died, it felt like dying too. And I looked at you and Ava and I thought, I can't ever feel that kind of pain again. I can't risk it. But you brought Nia home. That was different. She needed help. And now you care about her. Yes. So you're going to hurt anyway." Marcus closed his eyes. "Yeah, buddy, I am." Jalen leaned against his father. "Maybe that means caring is worth it, even when it hurts." They sat there until the sky started turning gray. Until Jalen fell asleep against Marcus's shoulder. Until Marcus carried his son back to bed and then stood in the hallway, looking at his children's doors, at the girl on the couch, at the life he'd built from grief and determination. Maybe caring was worth it, even when it hurt. The question was whether he was brave enough to keep doing it. Morning came too fast and too slow at the same time. Marcus woke on the armchair, again, with his entire body aching. Pale sunlight streamed through the windows, different from yesterday, brighter, the kind of light that meant melting snow and clearing roads. His phone showed 2 texts from Lena Whitmore, sent at 7:15 a.m. "Roads opening on main streets. City crews working residential areas. We'll arrive at 10 a.m. to discuss next steps." Marcus stared at those words. Next steps. Like Nia was a problem to be solved instead of a person who'd finally stopped flinching every time someone spoke to her. He made coffee extra strong, put bread in the toaster. tried not to think about the fact that he had 90 minutes before everything changed. Nia woke up while he was scrambling eggs. She sat up slowly, Mr. Trunks still in her arms, and looked around the apartment like she was memorizing it. Her eyes were puffy from crying. "Morning," Marcus said, keeping his voice gentle. "You hungry?" "Not really." "You should eat anyway." She came to the table, sat in what had become her chair over 2 days. Marcus put food in front of her. She picked at it, moving eggs around her plate without actually eating. Ava emerged next, immediately sensing the heaviness in the room. She climbed into the chair next to Nia and didn't say anything, just sat close. Sometimes kids understood things adults tried to explain away. Jalen appeared last. He looked at his father, at Nia's untouched food, at the clock on the microwave. "She's coming today, isn't she? The social worker." "Yeah. And Nia has to leave." "That's the plan." Jalen sat down hard. "That's a stupid plan." "Jalen." "It is, Dad. She's safe here. She's happy here. Why does she have to go back into a system that already failed her once?" Marcus didn't have a good answer. He'd been asking himself the same question all night. They ate breakfast in silence. Ava pushed half her eggs onto Nia's plate when she thought no one was looking. Nia pushed them back. They went back and forth 3 times before both girls gave up and just held hands under the table instead. At 9:30, Marcus started preparing for Lena's arrival. He straightened the living room, folded the blankets, made sure dishes were washed and put away, like proving he ran a good home would somehow change the outcome. "Dad." Jalen stood in the hallway. "Can I talk to you? Private?" They went into Marcus's bedroom, barely bigger than a closet, bed pressed against one wall, a single dresser, clothes hanging on a tension rod. Jalen closed the door. "What if we asked to keep her?" his son said. Marcus sat on the bed. "Buddy, I know what you're going to say. Money, space, your job. But we could make it work. I could help more. Ava could share her room. We already eat cheap. What's one more person?" "It's not that simple." "Why not? You're always telling us to do the right thing even when it's hard. Well, this is hard. And keeping Nia is right. So why doesn't that count?" Marcus looked at his 10-year-old son, standing there with his mother's conviction and his own stubborn hope. Because wanting to help and being able to help are different things. The state has requirements for foster parents. Background checks, home studies, training. I can't just decide to keep her. But you could try. You could ask. And if they say no? If they investigate and decide I'm not suitable? What if they look at how I work nights and leave you and Ava with a neighbor and they decide that's not good enough? What if trying to help Nia means I lose you? Jalen's face went pale. They wouldn't. They might. I can't risk you and Ava. I won't. So we just let her go? Back to a place where nobody knows her name. Marcus pulled his son close. Sometimes loving people means knowing when you can't be what they need. That doesn't mean we don't care. It means we care enough to let someone else try. Jalen didn't cry, but his voice shook. I hate this. Me too. They stayed like that for a while, holding on to each other, trying to be brave. The knock came at exactly 10 a.m. Marcus opened the door to find Lena Whitmore and another woman, younger, wearing a similar county ID badge and carrying a backpack with cartoon characters on it. "Mr. Reed," Lena said, "this is Jessica Tran. She'll be Nia's transport caseworker today." Jessica smiled warmly. "Nice to meet you. I've heard good things about how you've cared for Nia." Marcus let them in. The kids were on the couch, all 3 of them, pressed together like they could prevent what was coming through sheer proximity. Lena crouched in front of Nia. "How are you feeling today?" "Fine." Nia's voice was barely audible. "We've arranged a new placement for you, a smaller home, only 2 other kids. The foster mother's name is Patricia Reeves. She's experienced and kind. I think you'll like her." Nia said nothing. "We need to get you ready to go," Lena continued gently. Jessica brought you some clothes and a proper coat. We'll give you a few minutes to get dressed and say goodbye. Jessica handed over the backpack. Ava took it like it was full of poison. I can help her, Ava said. The two girls disappeared into the bathroom. Marcus heard Ava's voice through the door, talking fast and urgent, the way she did when she was trying to hold emotions together with words. Lena stood. She looked at Marcus with an expression he couldn't quite read. You did well with her. I want you to know that. Doesn't feel like enough. It never does. Jessica busied herself at the door, giving them space. Jalen stayed on the couch, arms crossed, jaw tight. Mr. Reed, Lena said quietly, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Have you considered becoming a licensed foster parent? Marcus blinked. What? You have a stable home, employment. Your children are well-adjusted. You responded appropriately in a crisis. These are all qualities we look for. She paused. The system needs people like you, especially people who understand what kids like Nia need. I work nights. We work with night workers. It's not ideal, but with the right childcare arrangements, it's manageable. I can barely afford the kids I have. Foster parents receive a monthly stipend. It's not much, but it helps. Marcus felt dizzy. Why are you telling me this now? Right before you take her away? Lena's professional mask cracked. For the first time since Marcus met her, she looked tired. Human. Because I've been doing this job for 8 years, and I've placed hundreds of children. Most placements are fine, adequate, safe enough. But every once in a while, I see something different. I see a child bloom in 2 days the way Nia has here, and I have to wonder if adequate is really good enough. I can't. Marcus stopped. Even if I wanted to, even if I applied today, it would take months. Nia needs a home now. I know, but maybe the next child doesn't have to wait. The bathroom door opened. Nia emerged wearing new jeans, a pink sweater, and a winter coat that actually fit. She looked like any other 8-year-old. Except for her eyes. Her eyes looked ancient. Ava followed, crying openly now. She was still holding Mr. Trunks. Nia, Ava said, you have to take him. He'll keep you safe. He will. Ava, that's your favorite. I want her to have him. Please, Daddy. Please. Marcus looked at his daughter, at Nia, at the worn elephant that had belonged to Sarah first, then Ava, and now was being offered like a promise, like proof that love could be passed on. Okay, he said. Okay. Nia took Mr. Trunks. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. Thank you. I'll take really good care of him. I know you will. Jessica checked her watch. We should get going. Beat the afternoon traffic. This was it. The moment Marcus had been dreading. Nia turned to Jalen first. Thank you for the soup, and for being nice even when you didn't want to. Jalen's voice cracked. Build that snow fort at your new place, okay? Okay. She hugged Ava next, a long, tight hug that made Marcus look away. Finally, she stood in front of Marcus. This small girl who'd arrived freezing and broken and had somehow, in 48 hours, worked her way into all their hearts. Mr. Reed, Marcus, I don't know how to thank you. Marcus knelt down so they were eye level. You don't thank someone for doing what's right. You just remember it. You remember that you matter, that you deserve kindness, that you're not invisible. You take that with you wherever you go. Will I see you again? The honest answer was probably not. The system didn't work that way, but Marcus couldn't make himself say it. I hope so. Nia threw her arms around his neck. Marcus held her, this child who wasn't his but somehow was, and felt something inside him crack open. All the grief he'd been holding back, all the fear of attachment, all the walls he'd built, they didn't stand a chance against one small girl who just needed someone to see her. You're a good person, Nia whispered. Your wife would be proud of you. Marcus had to pull away before he completely broke down. You be good, okay? Listen to Ms. Patricia. Let people help you. I will. Jessica gently took Nia's hand. Ready? Nia nodded. She picked up the small backpack, clutched Mr. Trunks, looked back at the apartment one more time. Then she walked out the door. Lena followed. Pausing at the threshold, she handed Marcus a folder. Information about the foster licensing process, just in case. Ms. Whitmore, think about it, that's all I ask. She nodded goodbye and left. The door closed. The apartment fell silent. Ava ran to her room, slamming the door. A second later, Marcus heard sobbing. Jalen stayed on the couch, staring at nothing. This sucks. Yeah, we did a good thing, right? Helping her? Yes. Then why does it feel so bad? Marcus sat beside his son. Because we got attached. We let ourselves care. And now we're paying the price for caring. Is it worth it? The price? Marcus thought about Nia's smile, about Ava sharing her elephant, about Jalen offering to build a snow fort, about 2 days of being a safe place for someone who desperately needed one. Yeah, he said. It is. They sat together while Ava cried and the apartment felt too big and too empty. Eventually, Jalen leaned against his father. Dad, that folder Ms. Whitmore gave you, are you going to look at it? Marcus glanced at the folder on the coffee table. Foster parent licensing, requirements, applications, a whole process that would turn his life even more upside down than it already was. I don't know, he admitted. Mom would want you to. Mom wanted a lot of things. She wanted us to be happy. She wanted us to help people. She always said that's what matters, helping when you can. Marcus closed his eyes. Sarah had said that. She'd lived that way, right up until the end. Even in the hospital, she'd been kind to the nurses, asking about their families, making them laugh despite the pain. I'll think about it, Marcus said. That seemed to be enough for Jalen. The boy nodded and stood. I'm going to check on Ava. Marcus was left alone in the living room. He picked up the folder. The cover had the county seal and words in official font. Becoming a foster parent. A guide to making a difference. He opened it, started reading. The requirements were extensive but not impossible. Background checks. He'd passed those. Home study. The apartment was small but clean. References. Mrs. Coleman would vouch for him. Training classes. He could make time. The monthly stipend was more than he expected. Not enough to get rich, but enough to ease the constant financial stress. Enough to maybe let Jalen do after-school activities. Enough to give Ava the art supplies she always wanted, but Marcus could never afford. But money wasn't the point. The point was kids like Nia who needed safe places to land while the system figured out their forever homes. Kids who just needed someone to remember their names and make them soup and tell them they mattered. Could he do that? Could he open his home, his heart, to child after child, knowing each one would eventually leave? Knowing each goodbye would hurt like this one? Marcus looked at the blankets still folded on the couch, at the drawings on the coffee table, at the empty mug Nia had used that morning. Maybe Jalen was right. Maybe caring was worth it, even when it hurt. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Marcus answered. Mr. Reed? It was Lena Whitmore. I wanted to let you know Nia arrived safely at her new placement. She's settling in. Patricia says she's very polite. That's good. Thank you for calling. There's something else. Nia asked if she could call you sometime, to say good night. It's unusual, but given the circumstances and the positive impact you had. Lena paused. Would you be comfortable with that? Marcus felt his throat tighten. Yes, absolutely yes. I'll arrange it with Patricia, maybe once a week, supervised, just until Nia feels more secure. Whatever helps her, whatever she needs. Mr. Reed, Marcus, did you look at the folder? I'm looking at it now. And? Marcus took a breath, a leap, a risk. I want to apply. Silence on the other end. Then, I was hoping you'd say that. I can't promise I'll be perfect at it. Perfect isn't what we need. Present is what we need. And you, Marcus Reed, you know how to be present. After they hung up, Marcus sat with the folder in his lap. He thought about Sarah, about promises and grief and love that didn't end just because someone was gone. He thought about Jalen and Ava, about teaching them that kindness mattered more than comfort. He thought about Naya, clutching Mr. Trunks, walking into another uncertain home. He couldn't save everyone, but maybe he could be a safe place for someone, even briefly, even when it hurt. Ava emerged from her room, eyes red and puffy. "Daddy, is Nia okay?" "She's okay, baby. Ms. Whitmore just called. Nia's safe. I miss her." "Me too." Ava climbed into Marcus's lap, something she hadn't done in months. She was getting too big for it, all knees and elbows, but Marcus held her anyway. "Can we help another kid like we helped Naya?" Ava asked. Marcus showed her the folder. "I'm thinking about it." "You should. We're good at it. We're good at making people feel safe." Out of the mouths of 6-year-olds. Jalen appeared in his doorway, listening. "If you do it, if you become a foster dad, will the kids stay longer than Nia did?" "Sometimes. Maybe weeks or months. Sometimes longer. Sometimes just days." "And then they leave?" "Most of the time, yeah. The goal is to help them find permanent homes." "So we just keep saying goodbye?" Marcus nodded, over and over. Jalen was quiet, thinking. Finally, "But each goodbye means we helped someone, right? Each goodbye means a kid had a safe place when they needed one." "That's the idea." "Then I think we should do it." Marcus looked at his children, his brave, big-hearted children who'd inherited their mother's capacity for love and his stubborn determination to keep showing up. "Okay," he said. "Okay, we'll do it." Ava squeezed him tight. Jalen smiled, and Marcus felt the weight of grief shift just slightly, making room for something else. Not forgetting, not moving on, but moving forward, carrying Sarah's love with him and using it to help others. The apartment was quiet. Outside, the sound of snow melting, dripping from eaves, running through gutters, the world thawing. Beginning again. Marcus held his daughter and looked at his son and thought about the future. About paperwork and home studies and training classes. About children who would come and go, each one leaving marks on their hearts. It would be hard. It would hurt. But maybe, just maybe, that was exactly the point. 3 weeks later, the snow was almost gone. Just gray piles in parking lots and shadowed corners where the sun couldn't reach. The city had returned to its normal rhythm. Buses running on time, people rushing to work, schools back in session, like the blizzard had never happened. But Marcus's apartment remembered. He kept finding small reminders, a crayon Nia had used, rolled under the couch. One of Ava's drawings that showed 4 stick figures holding hands. The mug Nia had drunk soup from, now part of the regular rotation. Each discovery was a small ache, a gentle bruise that hadn't quite healed. Marcus had submitted his foster parent application the day after Nia left. The paperwork was extensive. Medical records, financial statements, personal references, a detailed history of his life that felt like being turned inside out on paper. Mrs. Coleman had written him a reference that made Marcus tear up. His supervisor at work had written another. Even Jalen's teacher, who Marcus barely knew, had sent in a letter talking about what a dedicated father he was. The home study was scheduled for next week. A social worker would come, inspect the apartment, interview him and the kids. Marcus had been cleaning obsessively, even though Lena had told him they weren't looking for perfection, just safety and stability. "You're going to wear a hole in that floor," Mrs. Coleman said from her spot at the kitchen table. She'd gotten in the habit of stopping by on Saturday mornings, bringing pastries from the corner bakery and wisdom from 7 decades of living. Marcus stopped mopping. "I just want everything to be right." "Everything is right. You're a good father. You have a good home. They'll see that. What if they don't? What if they think the apartment's too small, or my job's too weird, or I'm too... Marcus. Mrs. Coleman's voice was firm. Stop borrowing trouble. You do that, you know. You imagine every way things could go wrong instead of believing they might go right. He sat down across from her. Sarah used to say the same thing. Because she was right. That woman had sense. Mrs. Coleman took a sip of her coffee. Have you heard from Nia? She called last Sunday. Supervised call, only 10 minutes. She sounded okay. Said Patricia is nice. The other foster kids are teaching her to play cards. But, Marcus sighed, but she asked when she could visit. And I had to explain that's not really how it works. We're not family. We were just temporary. I could hear her trying not to cry when I said it. That must have been hard. It was. But Lena says it's important for Nia to bond with her current placement. That if she keeps looking backward, she won't be able to move forward. Lena's not wrong, but neither is Nia. Mrs. Coleman reached across the table and patted his hand. You made a difference in that child's life, Marcus. A permanent difference, even if the situation was temporary. Don't discount that. After Mrs. Coleman left, Marcus tried to focus on the mundane. Laundry, groceries, fixing the leaky faucet in the bathroom that he'd been ignoring for months. Jalen had basketball practice. Ava had a play date with a friend from school. Normal life, regular routines. But Marcus found himself checking his phone constantly, like he was waiting for something to happen. It finally did on Tuesday evening. He was making dinner, spaghetti, because it was cheap and the kids would actually eat it, when his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered, expecting a spam call. Mr. Reed, it's Lena Whitmore. Marcus's heart jumped. Is Nia okay? Nia's fine. That's not why I'm calling. Lena paused. I'm calling about your application. I've been assigned as your licensing caseworker. Is that allowed? I mean, since you already know us, it's allowed, and honestly, it's better this way. I already have a sense of your family dynamics. The home study will go faster. Another pause. Marcus, I need to ask you something. Are you doing this because you want to help children in foster care, or are you doing this because you miss Nia specifically? Marcus turned off the stove, walked into his bedroom for privacy. Both, if I'm honest. Meeting Nia woke something up in me, made me realize how many kids are out there needing safe places. But yeah, I miss her. We all do. That's a good answer, honest. But you need to understand that even when you're licensed, even when children are placed with you, Nia probably won't be one of them. She has a stable placement now. Moving her again would be counterproductive. I know. And you're okay with that? Marcus sat on his bed. I have to be, don't I? This isn't about what I want. It's about what kids need. Good. That's the right perspective. Lena's voice softened. I'm scheduling your home study for Friday at 4 p.m. I'll spend about 2 hours there, observing, asking questions. I'll interview Jalen and Ava separately. It can feel invasive, but try to remember it's about protecting children. We'll be ready. Marcus, one more thing. I've seen a lot of people apply to be foster parents. Most are good people with good intentions. But very few have what you have, the ability to be fully present with a child, even when it's hard. Don't lose that. After they hung up, Marcus told the kids. They were surprisingly calm about it. Will we get another kid like Nia? Ava asked. Maybe, or maybe someone older, or younger. We won't know until it happens. As long as we help them, Jalen said. That's what matters. Friday came faster than Marcus expected. He'd taken the afternoon off work, deep-cleaned the entire apartment, and was vibrating with nervous energy when Lena knocked at 3:58 p.m. She entered with a different energy than before, more professional, more observant. She carried a tablet and a measuring tape. Hello, Marcus. Kids. Hi, Ms. Whitmore, Ava said politely. Lena smiled. You can call me Ms. Lena if that's easier. The next 2 hours were thorough. Lena measured the bedrooms, checked smoke detectors, looked under sinks for cleaning supplies that needed to be locked up. She asked about Marcus's work schedule, his child care arrangements, his support system. She asked about Sarah, how she died, how the family had coped, whether Marcus had processed his grief or was still carrying it. That question hit deeper than expected. "I don't know if you ever finish processing something like that," Marcus admitted. "I think you just learn to live alongside it. Some days are harder than others." "And does your grief interfere with your ability to care for your children?" "No. If anything, it makes me more determined to show up for them, to be present, because I know how precious and fragile life is." Lena made notes on her tablet. She interviewed Jalen in his room, then Ava in hers. Marcus paced the living room, trying not to imagine what they were saying, trying to trust that his kids would be honest and that honesty would be enough. When the interviews were done, Lena gathered everyone in the living room. "I want to thank all of you for your time today. I know this process can feel invasive." She looked at Marcus. "I'm going to be straightforward with you. There are some concerns. The apartment is small for a family of 4, even temporarily. Your work schedule is not ideal. You rely heavily on a neighbor for childcare, which works but isn't a formal arrangement." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "However," Lena continued, "there are also significant strengths. Your children are well-adjusted, articulate, and clearly feel safe and loved. Your home is clean, organized, and warm. Most importantly, you have something many foster parents lack, a deep understanding of what it means to create safety for someone who's been through trauma. So I'm recommending approval, pending completion of your training courses. You'll need to complete 30 hours of pre-service training. Once that's done, you'll be licensed for emergency and short-term placements." Ava squealed. Jalen grinned. Marcus felt tears threatening. "Thank you," he managed. "Thank you for giving us this chance." "Don't thank me yet. This is just the beginning. The training is intensive, and actual placements are harder than you think. Children in foster care have been through things that will break your heart. You'll deal with behaviors you're not prepared for. You'll face situations where caring isn't enough." Lena's voice was kind but firm. "Are you ready for that?" Marcus looked at his kids, at the apartment that would soon hold another child who needed safety, at the life they were choosing, harder, messier, but filled with purpose. "We're ready," he said. The training courses started the following week, Tuesday and Thursday evenings, plus Saturday mornings. Mrs. Coleman watched the kids. Marcus sat in a classroom with 15 other prospective foster parents, learning about trauma, attachment disorders, de-escalation techniques, the legal system, cultural competency. Some of it was overwhelming. Some of it was heartbreaking. All of it was necessary. He learned that most kids in foster care weren't orphans like people imagined. They had parents who were sick, addicted, incarcerated, or unable to care for them safely. They learned that foster care was supposed to be temporary. The goal was always reunification when possible. He learned about the behaviors trauma created, how a child who'd been neglected might hoard food, how a child who'd been abused might flinch at sudden movements, how a child who'd been abandoned might test boundaries constantly, waiting for the next adult to give up on them. He learned that love wasn't always enough, that patience, consistency, and professional support mattered just as much. After one particularly difficult class about sexual abuse, Marcus sat in his car for 20 minutes, trying to process what he'd heard. His phone rang, Nia's weekly call. "Hi, Marcus." Her voice was lighter than the last time they'd talked. "Guess what? I got an A on my math test." "That's amazing, Nia. I'm so proud of you." "Patricia put it on the fridge. She says I'm smart." Nia paused. "How are Jalen and Ava?" "They're good. Jalen made the school basketball team. Ava's learning to read chapter books." "Tell them I miss them." "I will." Marcus's throat tightened. "How are you doing? Really?" "Better." Patricia's nice. She lets me help cook dinner. And there's a girl here, Maya, who's teaching me to braid hair. Nia's voice got quieter. I still think about you guys, about those 2 days. Sometimes I dream I'm back in your apartment, all warm and safe. You are safe, Nia. Where you are now, that's real safety. Patricia can give you things I couldn't. I know, but you're the one who saved me. You're the one who made me remember I matter. Marcus had to wipe his eyes. You'll always matter, kiddo. Always. After the call, he sat in the parking lot and cried. For Nia. For all the kids like her. For the hard truth that sometimes the most loving thing you could do was let someone go. Then he drove home, hugged his children, and kept studying. 6 weeks after Nia left, Marcus completed his training. He received his license in the mail, an official document that said he was approved for foster care placements. He hung it on the refrigerator next to Ava's drawings. When will we get a call? Jalen asked. Could be days. Could be months. There's no way to know. It was 3 days. Marcus was at work, halfway through his night shift, when his phone rang. Lena. Marcus, I have a placement if you're willing. 6-year-old boy. Mother's in the hospital with a mental health crisis. No other family. He needs somewhere to stay while we assess the situation. Could be a few days. Could be a few weeks. Marcus's heart pounded. What's his name? Devin. Tell me about him. Quiet. Scared. He's been through this before. Last placement ended badly. The foster parents gave up after 2 days because he wet the bed. Lena's voice was careful. I need someone patient, Marcus. Someone who won't give up on him. Marcus thought about Nia, about how scared she'd been, about how much difference 2 days had made. Bring him over, Marcus said. We'll be ready. He called Mrs. Coleman, who immediately agreed to come sit with the kids until he got home. He called his supervisor, who let him leave early. He rushed home as the sun was coming up, bursting into the apartment where Jalen and Ava were eating breakfast. We're getting a placement, he announced. Today. His name is Devin. He's 6. Ava jumped up. Can I give him my crayons? Let's see what he needs first, baby. Jalen stood. I'll get the couch ready. They worked together, preparing. Fresh sheets, clean blankets, space in the closet. Marcus made sure there were kid-friendly foods in the fridge. Ava set up a small welcome basket with crayons, coloring books, and a stuffed bear. At 10 a.m., Lena's car pulled up. Marcus watched from the window as she opened the back door and helped out a small boy with dark skin, big eyes, and shoulders hunched like he was trying to disappear. Marcus opened the apartment door, stepped into the hallway, crouched down so he was at Devin's eye level. Hi, Devin. I'm Marcus. Welcome to our home. Devin didn't speak, just clutched a plastic grocery bag that held everything he owned. Come on in. Let me show you around. Lena gave Marcus an encouraging nod. Devin followed him inside, his steps tentative. Jalen and Ava stood in the living room, trying not to overwhelm him. Ava waved. Jalen said a quiet hello. Devin looked at them like he was waiting for the catch. You like pancakes? Marcus asked. I was about to make some. Devin nodded once. Okay, pancakes it is. Lena stayed for 30 minutes, reviewing paperwork, making sure Devin was comfortable. Before she left, she pulled Marcus aside. Thank you for this. For him, he needs someone who won't quit on him. We won't quit, Marcus promised. After Lena left, Marcus made pancakes. Devin sat at the kitchen table, watching everything with wary eyes. Ava chattered about school. Jalen helped cook. Normal family sounds filled the apartment. When the food was ready, Marcus put a plate in front of Devin. The boy stared at it. It's okay, Marcus said gently. You can eat. Devin picked up his fork with shaking hands, took a bite, then another. Then he started crying, quiet tears that ran down his cheeks while he kept eating. Marcus sat beside him, didn't touch him, didn't push, just stayed present. You're safe here, Devon, for as long as you need to be. Nobody's going to hurt you or give up on you. You understand? Devon nodded, still crying, still eating. Ava slid the welcome basket across the table. This is for you. The bear's name is Captain, but you can change it if you want. Devon pulled out the bear, held it close, and Marcus felt it. That same feeling from when Nia first smiled. Like his heart was breaking and healing at the same time. Like this was exactly where he was supposed to be, doing exactly what he was supposed to do. It wouldn't be easy. Devon would have bad nights. There would be tears and setbacks and moments when Marcus questioned everything. But there would also be breakthroughs, small victories. Days when Devon laughed, nights when he felt safe enough to sleep. And after Devon, there would be others. Each one with their own story. Each one needing what Marcus's family could give. Not forever, maybe not even for long, but for right now. A warm place to land. Adults who showed up. Kids who shared their crayons and their elephants and their hearts. The apartment was small. The money was tight. The challenges were real. But there was room. There was always room for one more. Marcus watched Devon hold the bear. Watched Ava color beside him. Watched Jalen clear the dishes with quiet competence. He thought about Sarah. About grief and love and fear and courage. About how being broken didn't mean you couldn't still be a safe place. Sometimes it meant you were the safest place of all because you understood what it meant to hurt. Outside, the last of the snow melted. Spring was coming, new beginnings, second chances. Marcus's phone buzzed, a text from Lena. Thank you for taking Devon. I have 2 more possibles next week if you're open. He typed back, we're open. Always, because that's what this was now. Not just his family of 3, but a family that expanded and contracted like breathing. That made room. That showed up. That loved without needing to possess. Devon looked up from his pancakes. Mr. Marcus? Yeah, buddy? Is it okay if I stay here, for real? Marcus smiled. For as long as you need. That's a promise. And it was. A promise he'd keep making, child after child, goodbye after goodbye, until his heart was so full of people who'd passed through that it couldn't hold anything else. Until he understood what Sarah had known all along, that love didn't need permanence to be real. It only needed courage and presence and the willingness to say, over and over, to every scared child who walked through his door, you matter, you're safe. Welcome home. The snow was gone. The apartment was warm. Devon was eating pancakes. Ava was drawing. Jalen was smiling. And Marcus Reed, tired, broke, grieving, and more whole than he'd been in years, was exactly where he was supposed to be, still standing, still showing up, still making room for love. No matter how much it hurt, because that, in the end, was what it meant to be human. To care even when it cost you, to open even when it scared you, to believe that being a safe place, even briefly, could change a life, his life, their lives, every life that touched theirs. One warm meal at a time, one kind word at a time, one scared child at a time, until broken hearts became the safest places to land. The end.